highest number of times. Now, they were the complete opposite to like family. They knew what they wanted to do. They were students, and they knew that they wanted to solve student problems. And the student problem that they wanted to solve was getting people into the workforce, getting them started on their career. Now, if you've ever spoken to an undergrad student or a grad who is nearing the end of their course, we don't need to tell you that this is going to be a very sticky product.
And they did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
They did the Alexis version of going to the dog park. They talked to 600 students, which is a lot of students. And students all said, yeah, we like, I guess we want mentoring, like, 'cause that's how you get the job, right? And therein lay the assumption. They said, oh, they want mentoring. They went off, they built a mentoring platform. The mentors were there, the students were there, but it just wasn't really working.
No, it wasn't. They found that the students were disengaging from their mentorships after a couple of sessions. And the mentors, they just didn't really know how to show up for the students because they didn't know what the students wanted. So again, it was the antithesis to Like Family. Like Family, they found that when people used the service, they kept using it. Whereas Forage, they kept seeing this drop off and they couldn't identify why until they decided to return to those 600 students and keep asking questions. And in doing so, they discovered that the reason that all of these students had gravitated towards the idea of a mentoring program wasn't because they were looking for mentors. They saw mentors as a way to get their foot in the door for a job. And they thought, okay,
so they want a job.
How can we address that then? We can't just hand out jobs, but how can we create a bridge that will connect these students to the workforce?
Absolutely. And so Pasha Rayan and Tom Brunskill, they weren't from the classic private school, selective school thing that we see in Sydney. Pasha Rayan was from a good school, but single mother, didn't feel like he had the same ways in. Tom Brunskill was a country boy. They came to UNSW, they didn't even realise that internships and clerkships and all that existed. And through that whole process, they were really, it was part of them that was a bit affronted. Like, why can't this go to more people? They are competitive for a reason. And they thought, let's try this. Let's ask our database, what do you reckon about a virtual internship? And everyone in the data space said, yes, we would all love to be able to get an internship or a clerkship at a top tier law firm, at a major bank, at a major, a multinational company. We'd all love that, a virtual internship. And they're still in this program. And they've been laughing stock of this program, so they have to do something really fast.
Yes, they've been inundated by hundreds of students who love the idea of a virtual internship. The only problem is that the internship doesn't exist yet. So they go to one of the venture capital funds that has backed them and said, hey guys, you know how you've been gently nudging us to find a product that sticks? Well, we found it. We just might need you to help us cobble together a digital internship at your fund in the next 3 days.
Because that's when we promised it.
And the fund said, yeah, all right, sure. And it was a raging success. And from there, once they had proven their concept, they were able to approach other law firms and consultancy companies and tech companies and say, hey, look at what we did. Look at the demand for this product. If you offer this, you're not just giving students a chance to launch their careers, you are connecting with potential viable young candidates with minimal effort from you. It's not like you need to physically monitor them the entire day. It's a virtual internship. So once you set it up, it's done. And it took off.
Yep, fast forward, TLDR of it is they went to the States, they got all the big brands on, they've exited, big EAB bought them basically. And Pasha, because he is a sucker for founder punishment, jumped right back into the Y Combinator program, which is the big fancy accelerator out of the United States. It's his second time round, and he's building AI agents. Of course he is.
So here, you have one startup that had a fantastic product, hadn't connected with their target market. You have another startup that had connected with their target market, didn't have the right product. This could have been the dead zone for both of them. Yet, they escaped the dead zone by applying the same strategy, which is they kept asking questions. Now, we've explored 4 different case studies tonight, and if we've done our jobs well, then hopefully you've found them to be quirky little anecdotes. But you might be thinking, yeah, but how do they connect? And more importantly, how does it relate to what I want to do? The kind of problem that I want to solve. Well, all 4 of these startups, they succeeded by doing something that we like to refer to as the pyramid of priorities. I really, really apologize for my dodgy Canva skills, but it is a pyramid and there are priorities. So at the top of the pyramid, you have the most obvious, which is what is going to ruin us on launch day. Now, these are the dire problems, like we have launched a product without doing our proper due diligence and it's actually illegal to offer what we're offering and we're going to be shut down. Or we don't have enough finances in the bank to actually keep this online for 24 hours. These are obviously massive problems, but they're also the kind of problems that you're likely to identify because they're so glaring.
The next level down is there's a murkier level. What will ruin us in our first 6 months? And this is really a prioritization thing, right? So what will ruin you in your first 6 months? Did you not understand the regulatory environment? Ray spent a lot of time talking us through the regulatory environments of places that you could go into and briefly touched on why that was really bloody important. That could sink you because you violated a law.
Are your unit economics not correct? Are you charging too much or too little? Have you not connected with your target market? So are you just throwing all of this effort against a brick wall? Now, what's really interesting about the second layer of the pyramid of priorities is that it really enmeshes a lot with the third layer. The bottom layer is what will ruin us at some point in the you
And
know,
just to be clear about this list is endless.
Yes, it's not a static document at all. This is like a living, breathing thing that will accompany you at all times. However, the problems at the bottom, they're the things of which you've got to be mindful and which all the startup founders we interviewed, they were constantly mindful of problems in the near future. But what we found with a lot of the people we interviewed is that depending on whether you're a builder or a seller, you can conflate these 2 layers. So for example, Wenee mentioned that she is a law lecturer. So for Wenee, her natural instinct might be to see some distant kind of regulatory issue, something relating to IP and think, oh my gosh, that is a huge priority. I've got to focus all of my attention on that right away. Meanwhile, she doesn't have enough data capacity to host 10,000 users on her platform, which means that 6 months from now, it's going to crash. Now, builders, they're going to face the other kind of problem. They may focus on building out the capacity to host 1 million users, and they may think that that's their priority this week. But if they're not connecting with the right people, if they're not solving the seller's problem, then it's not going to matter because they might not even attract 10,000 users.
We call this the problem of being a specialist. You've got a very particular set of skills. It's something that probably you built your career on. And as a lawyer, for example, I've seen all the things that sink a company, so I live in a constant state of low-humming anxiety about what could sink a company. But with my founder hat on, I really need to go, but will it really? And that is a hard context switch. And that's probably, I imagine, what would occur to a lot of people in this room.
So, in short, the moment that you can identify correctly the items in your pyramid of priorities, you're going to be able to progress with your startup. And like Wenee said, it doesn't disappear. You'll be solving problems every day. And that might feel grim. But at the same time, it's kind of liberating because once you realize that your job is to solve problems, then you can be a case study in somebody else's presentation. You can have someone like me or Wenee talking about you and all the great things that you've done and hopefully inspiring another room of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We promised we'd get you through to Q&A, and I should also say thank you so much for your attention as well. We are at writingtheunicornhq.com. The QR code is on the screen. We'd really love if you could support us in our pre-orders, and I will let you do what you need to do with QR codes, but I know that you had a question.
I did. Yes. Out of all the founders you interviewed for the book, how many were a team of a builder and a seller from day one?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Here's one that wasn't. Tim Fung of Airtasker. I'm sure you know Airtasker. And I'm going to drop that douchey line of Tim Fung's a friend of mine. But that's not the most important thing. He's a seller. His co-founder, also a seller. their whole origin story, you know, you've probably heard it. But he didn't have that background. And I think what was really interesting about Tim Fung is he had obviously a strong background in corporate finance. He got caught in the 2008 layoffs, not COVID, the other problem, GFC. And so he left his role at Macquarie Bank and kind of floated around the idea of basically going full entourage and being a talent agent. So he did that for a bit. And then he got pulled into the world of Mason, and then he got pulled into solving the Airtasker problem. And so that actually involved him doing a lot of work on the ground. Literally, when you build a double-sided marketplace, which was the last business model disruption that you often see, he basically would be at IKEA handing out pamphlets. Do you need someone to do these jobs? And then he'd do the jobs with his co-founder. He'd be the one helping people put together their IKEA furniture. And I think in his particular case, what's so interesting about that is that, yes, he came from corporate finance. He could have done a lot of specialist issues and